Alright, yes. Am I really late with this update and kind of talking about the upgrade that Gilgamesh and Enkidu got? 100% yes. I'm like 10 days behind, but am I still gonna talk about it because Gil is my favorite character? Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go ahead and talk about it, especially now that I've had a lot of time to kind of think about and use some of these different buffs that we've gotten over on the JP version of the game. If you're on the NA version and you're like, bro, what is this guy talking about? Gil and Enkidu are getting buffs. Yeah, they got insane buffs for the New Year celebration, although I think Gilgamesh is, ironically enough, and it's really funny if you just have watched any of my videos and know that I'm like a super big battery guy. Like, I love servants that have those insane batteries. I think Gilgamesh actually overall got a stronger buff than Enkidu, and we'll kind of talk about that in today's video. If you have not already though, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that sweet daily FGO content. Also, I do typically stream at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on my Twitch, although I believe it was yesterday I actually missed going live, and that is actually 100% on me. It wasn't even because I was like sick or anything. I've just gotten back into playing Minecraft with like a really old friend of mine, and yeah, like I just got super into it, and by the time I was like, oh man, like I'm stretching, I'm like, dude, what time is it? It's like, dog, it's like 9:30, and it's like, oh, so I have completely missed my stream, and I was like, all right, this kind of sucks, but yeah, typically, whenever odd things like that don't happen, I typically am not missing out on stream. So yeah, typically 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Most of the time is going to be FGO, and some of the other times I'm going to start bringing back stuff like Dark Souls, and I'm doing like a Pokemon Nuzlocke on certain days over there. I might do Minecraft Mondays. I might be that basic of a person, but yeah, we'll see going forward. Anyway, let's go ahead and start talking about some of these servants, starting off with Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh, I think, got like a really sneaky upgrade, but it's actually a lot more broken when you start like breaking down some of the other servants that are around Gilgamesh. So I've gone on record numerous times saying that, yeah, I think Gilgamesh is a really strong template for a servant, but it's really hard to give him an upgrade without making him broken. Kind of in the same vein of someone like a Jalter, right? Where their kit is just so good, or they're doing something so strong that it's hard to give them something without them just taking that inch you've given them and running a mile with it. I think someone like Jack and Okita are also very similar cases where they just have fundamentally really strong / broken quick cards that it makes it really hard for them to like toss anything their way without making them super broken. Although I think in the case of like someone like Okita and Jalter, they've done really good jobs of skirting that line, of making them still really strong and giving them a very powerful buff without making it dummy nutty. So they went ahead and they buffed Gil's first skill here, and it's a pretty simple buff, like at face value. It's any servant that has the Sky attribute is getting a 20% NP damage buff for 3 turns, and then he's also bombing 20 stars. So it's kind of nice at face value. It's like Gil has very high hits on all of his cards, and in a Brave Chain, the guy can drop around like 20 to 30 stars anyway, so plus this, he's gonna have like at least 50 stars. Like you could plan ahead for being like, okay, I'm gonna do a Brave Chain, or someone else is going to drop just a fair bit of stars, then boom, I'm going to pop this, and now I'm immediately going to have like a 50-star turn. Or you can use this on turn 1 right away to ensure that you're going to have really strong crits following your immediate opening turn. Because as we know that if you don't have any like way to bomb stars on your first wave, you can't really do any crits, right? Because you don't generate those stars, you don't get to use them immediately. And so these bombing skills where you bomb the stars onto the field immediately are always very strong, especially when you look at it in conjunction with his third skill. I know this isn't the buffed one, but his third skill that gives him insane star weight on top of the fact that he's got really high star absorption being an archer. Now, where I think this actually becomes really nutty is when you look at Gil's NP. So when they buffed his NP originally to like really help him do some damage, they gave him this 30% NP damage buff right here. So that made him hit really hard, especially against servants, which is like, I mean, well, servants with the Enema L is, that. Like, most people are weak to this, right? This is most of the servants in the game. So, like, it made him do, as he's famously been called, able to do, like, single target damage as an AoE. But here's where this kind of gets a little insane. So they give him this, so that's 30% NP damage. That's always going to be up whenever he fires his NP, right? And then he's getting this 20%. Combine that, it's going to be 50% NP. And then you think about or realize that Oberon is also in the game, And Oberon's third skill increases the amount or like the efficacy of how good your NP damage buffs are. And Gilgamesh just went from a 30 to a 50%, meaning with people like Oberon specifically, he's getting a massive buff, right? And actually, for one, it's just making him better in general. If we pull up the chart over here, you can see that he has risen to like top dog when it comes to the AoE archer servants, like just in general. Like now he just does the most damage, so he's kind of back at the table, being able to talk with some of these guys. Like Gil is always going to have a spot on the table compared to like Napoleon, Ishtar, Tesla, right? The kind of the debate is like, well, Ishtar is just always like generically really good, is always doing really good damage, no damage mods needed, you just kind of have to really time her massive attack buff, right? And then Tesla and Napoleon, it's kind of talking about some of their other skills, the 30% battery and the divine buff versus like the 50% battery, the earth sky, plus, you know, his ability to pierce invincibility, give everybody NP gain. You know, I think Tesla is super great. But then Gilgamesh was always just kind of like Ishtar with a damage mod almost, like they kind of both just did really good damage. But Gilgamesh was like against servants, whereas Ishtar was always more free, but he did more damage. Regardless, now this is giving him like a much bigger chair at the table, ironically enough, because it's Gilgamesh. And I love that he's got like much more of a stronger footing to sit on now when it comes to these discussions of talking about all of these AoE archers, because he just flat out does the most damage out of all of them, right? Like regardless of like, you know, where they're sitting, right? Like even over here, he's doing more damage than they are, which is kind of insane, right? He's doing like 47 over them. He's absolutely insane. Although, I'm funny, I'm hovering over Say over here, but she's not on this discussion. You know, we're talking about the Buster guys. You know, only big busty boys allowed. No Say. But yeah, still, it gives him like a really good leg to stand on, that he's actually like the big damaging guy. And I also just, as a Gil fan, I really like that it's like, oh yeah, Gilgamesh is like now the most damaging guy, and he's like one of the strongest NPs in the verse, like lore wise. So it definitely helped him out a lot. Just again, at front face value by making him hit this hard. But then when you also consider that the Buster meta is using Oberon, it also just made this guy just so much stronger, because the NP damage buff in particular just synergizes so well with what they're going to be doing over there. So that's really sick. And plus, it also gives it to everybody that has the Sky attribute. So any servants in here, you're also going to be able to toss a buff their way. Unfortunately, I got really sad that neither like Koyenskaya or Oberon were on this, right? Because you could use them with it, right? You could use Koyenskaya and Oberon in conjunction with their damaging NPs, but you know, I guess it might be a little bit too much to ask for. It is kind of funny that it also buffs Enkidu, because they got buffed together, and you know, Gil and Enkidu are two peas in a pod. So I thought that was a little bit funny, but yeah, it gives you a little bit of like, I guess, meme potential with these guys. So that's pretty cool if you want to go ahead and buff them up. Although it says specifically servant allies, so you know, if you're ever bringing this golem as your buddy, he's not going to get the buff. So I'm like, yeah, thank you, Lysengo, for really specifying that. You know, when I bring this golem, you know, wouldn't that be crazy if they make it like Avisabron gets like a skill where he could summon these golems, and that's why they're implementing something like this? That's just really funny. But yeah, Gilgamesh got a really insane buff. Enkidu's is just a 50% battery. It's really nothing else. They just slapped a 50% battery on him, didn't really reduce the cooldown, and initially I thought this was way crazier than it was, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, it's still kind of balanced, because it's on the HP skill, right? And the HP skill has a insanely long cooldown, right? The cooldown on this thing is insane. It's 10 turns. It is a 10k heal. It is also now a debuff cleanse and a massive NP gauge. But it's like, for longer fights, it's just going to be something nice that you get every now and then. Like every 10 turns, you're just going to go ahead and grab this for yourself, and that's going to be really nice. But I don't think it's going to be as broken in more difficult content, which is where you're primarily using Enkidu. What I do think it's actually really interesting for is that it's now giving Enkidu a niche as a farmer, because he has that 50% battery, so he synergizes with a lot of like those weird nodes where you have to use like your double Castoria or something on like wave 1 to buff the single target guy, and it gives him synergy with that with like 0% NP, right? Because Castoria, if you're using double of them, will give him 60%, right? He won't benefit from like the arts buff or anything that she's going to be giving, but you're going to be giving that to your primary DPS anyway. You don't typically give them anything aside from the charisma buffs, and as we all know, Enkidu hits hard enough that he's not really going to need it, right? Like he does enough damage even without the threat against humanity that he should be able to take out any random big enemy you find, like Berserker or archers that you find there. He should be able to clean them out. So I think this actually is really nice because it gave him kind of that niche. Like, it gave him a pretty solid niche of being able to be used as like a big, like, random enemy you find in a node clearing type guy, right? Because it's a 50% battery and it gives him really good synergy with that stuff. I still don't think he's going to be quite as good as someone like Kentoki, right? Because even though Kentoki over here is doing a little bit less damage than Enkidu is, he's a berserker, so you can bring him to anything, right? And his damage is pretty much free. So I don't think he's going to beat him out in that niche, right? But still, I guess if they ever throw a threat against humanity, like in like the second round, right? And you have to like beat up one of those guys. But I don't think we're ever going to get like one of these dudes. Okay, I can't get to the trade. I'm having trouble navigating the wiki, but you guys get what I'm saying. You're not gonna find like a tree or anything like that, right? You're not gonna find anything like that on like the second wave or something. Although I don't know, maybe they'll do that in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about these buffs. More particularly, I wanted to shine some light on Gilgamesh. Again, he is my favorite character, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think his thing is really insane. And then I think the Enkidu one is really good, but more so it's just going to give him kind of a niche in being able to be your big farming guy, like if you need him to take out like some random node, because yeah, this is going to be like a 50% gauge, which is insane, but it's going to be every 10 turns, so you're not going to see it super often. But it is something really strong that Enkidu now has in his repertoire of abilities, right? Like, it's just a nice thing that he has, but you know, maybe if he had it on one of the other skills. But then again, this is a 5-turn skill and this is a 5-turn skill, so he can't really have it on those. Like, if they slapped it on this one, it'd probably be like 30% or something. It'd be really nerfed. So I don't know, pick your poison on that one. But with all that being said, let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Do you like these buffs? Do you think they're insane? Let me know all that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.